When I placed the envelope with $500 cash on the kitchen counter that morning, I thought it was just another quiet Sunday. But when I came back from church, the envelope was gone. And so was the last bit of respect I thought my family had for me. My niece, Tanya, looked me right in the eye and said, "You don't need the money, Auntie. You never had kids. What are you even saving for?" Her words hit me like a bucket of ice water, sharp, shocking, and humiliating. She said it in front of everyone, Ray, my brother, his wife, even the neighbors who'd come over for brunch. They all laughed awkwardly, like I was the joke at my own table. And I remember thinking, so this is what it feels like when your generosity turns into your curse. For 22 years, I'd been the family's safety net, the invisible wallet with feelings. When my younger brother, Rakesh, lost his job in 2012, I gave him $8,000 from my savings. Just until he gets back on his feet. He never did. But he did buy a new TV that month, a 65-inch one. When Tanya wanted to go to college out of state, I co-signed her student loan because her parents' credit was too low. That's another $32,000 on my record. When my mother needed a knee replacement, I covered $6,250 in hospital bills. When my sister's wedding fell apart, I sent $100 and $200 so she could save face. When my father's old house needed repair, I wrote a check for $2,800 and said, "Don't worry about it. That's over $50,000 gone, quietly. All from the woman they called the old maid." They'd say it half-jokingly, of course. "You're too picky, Auntie." It's too late now, isn't it? At least you've got your savings. I'd laugh along, pretending it didn't sting, pretending I didn't hear the pity in their tone, or the greed behind it. What they never knew was how many nights I'd cried myself to sleep thinking I was doing the right thing, being the good sister, the reliable aunt, the nice one. And every time I gave, I thought I was buying love. But all I was buying was their entitlement. The breaking point came 2 weeks after that brunch. It was a Friday evening. I'd just come home from my bookkeeping job, tired, hungry, and craving silence. But my phone kept buzzing. First, Tanya. "Auntie, can I borrow your car for the weekend?" I already told my friends we're taking it to the lake. Then her mother. "Don't be selfish, Dee. She's young. Let her enjoy life. You have yours." That line, "you have yours," burned like acid. What life did they think I had? A one-bedroom apartment, a cat named Ruby, and a habit of clipping coupons like they were life rafts. So when I said no, a simple, quiet no, something shifted. My phone rang again. It was Rakesh, his voice sharp as ever. "You've changed, Dee. Ever since you got that promotion, you think you're above family." I remember my hand trembling as I held the phone. I remember the taste of bitterness, metallic like blood. "I'm not above family," I whispered. "I'm just done being your ATM with feelings." There was silence, then a scoff, then the line went dead. The next day, I woke up to a Facebook post, Tanya's post, a photo of her and her friends in front of my car. The caption read, "Borrowed from the family's resident spinster. Bless her heart." 100 likes, laughing emojis. Even my brother commented, "She's too nice for her own good." That was the moment I stopped shaking. That was the moment I froze. Not from fear, from clarity. Because it hit me. They didn't see me as a person anymore. Just a resource, a vault. And I had spent decades unlocking myself for people who never even knocked politely. That weekend, I didn't answer their calls. I didn't show up for Sunday dinner. I didn't even send the usual groceries or transfer the helping money. Instead, I sat alone with my ledger, the same one I'd used for bookkeeping clients, and started writing down every dollar I'd ever given. $8,000, $32,000, $6,450, $1,200, $2,800, Total, $450. I stared at that number until the tears dried on my face. Then I wrote one more line beneath it. Price of self-respect, priceless. That night, Rakesh showed up at my door. No, hello, no, how are you? Just, Mom says you didn't send the grocery money this month. What's wrong with you? His voice filled my living room, harsh and familiar. I could smell his cologne, too strong, too confident. For the first time in my life, I didn't back away. What's wrong, I said quietly, is that I've been funding your family like it's a charity I never signed up for. He laughed, shaking his head. You're imagining things again. We've all helped each other. I looked him dead in the eyes. Then show me your receipts. That stopped him, for a second at least. Then he muttered something about ungrateful old women and stormed out. But I didn't cry. I stood there, hands trembling, not from fear this time, but from something new. Defiance. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel small. I felt awake. As I locked the door behind him, I whispered to myself, they call me the old maid. Maybe that's fine, but they'll never call me a fool again. And that was the night everything changed, because the next Sunday, while they gossiped over brunch without me, I began my secret. The thing that would make them regret every cruel word they'd ever said. I woke up the next Sunday to silence. No calls, no texts, no, "Good morning, Dee Dee," or, "Auntie, can you send me?" Just sunlight on my kitchen counter and the hum of my refrigerator, the only two things in the house that still worked without complaint. For a moment I thought I'd feel lonely, but instead I felt free. The air felt cleaner without their voices in it. I made myself coffee, the expensive kind I used to buy only when Tanya came over, and sat at the table with my ledger again. This time I didn't calculate what I'd lost. I calculated what I had left. $11,382 in checking, $3,900 in savings, $200 cash in the drawer, not much, but enough to start something mine. That Monday, I took a personal day from work and walked into my bank, wearing my best navy blue kurta and the small gold chain my mother had given me decades ago. The banker, Mrs. Patel, smiled as I sat down. "What brings you in today, Ms. Sharma?" I took a deep breath. "I need to change my beneficiaries," I said. "And I'd like to open a separate account, one no one else knows about." She looked surprised but nodded. "Of course. Are you being pressured financially?" That question hit harder than I expected. My voice trembled. "Not anymore." She nodded again. A slow, knowing nod that said she'd seen this before. By the end of the hour, I walked out with a new debit card, a new account, and a new sense of control. That was step one. Step two came a few days later. I called my lawyer, the same one who handled my parents' will years ago. A quiet man named Mr. D'Souza, with kind eyes and a sharp mind. When I explained everything, he didn't interrupt. He just took notes. "Ms. Sharma," he said finally, "what you're describing is a pattern of financial abuse. It's more common than people realize, especially in families." Hearing that word, abuse, was like someone handing me a label for a bruise I'd been hiding for years. He helped me file documents to protect my accounts, revoke my co-signer obligations, and document every payment I'd ever made. As I signed the papers, my hand stopped shaking. For the first time, I wasn't the one asking for help. I was taking it. Of course, my silence didn't go unnoticed. By the next week, Rakesh was at my door again. He didn't knock politely this time, just banged on it until I opened. "What's this nonsense? Tanya's school called. Her tuition bounced. You said you'd handle it." I kept my voice calm. That's not my responsibility anymore. He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "You think you can just walk away? After everything we've done for you?" I almost laughed. Done for me? Or to me? He smirked, that same condescending tilt of his head. You're losing it, Dee Dee. Maybe you should see someone. I'm worried about you. That's when I realized his next move. Gaslighting. They'd try to make me look unstable, crazy old woman, lonely and bitter. So I decided to beat them at their own game. That Friday, I made an appointment with a psychiatrist, Dr. Mehta. I told her everything, the manipulation, the financial exploitation, the public humiliation. She listened quietly, then said, Ms. Sharma, you're not delusional. You're healing. What you've experienced is long-term coercive control. She wrote it down, emotionally and financially abused by family. Then she handed me the paper. Keep this, she said. Documentation can save your sanity and your case. Case. The word felt strange but right, because I was finally building mine. The following Sunday, I began my ritual, my secret. I woke up early, dressed simply, and left home at 7 a.m. sharp. Instead of going to church, I drove to a quiet part of town, a small community kitchen run by an elderly woman named Sister Louise. I'd discovered it months earlier while volunteering through work, but never told anyone about it. Every Sunday, I started cooking there, not for my ungrateful relatives, but for strangers. Homeless mothers, elderly widowers, runaway teens, people who said thank you and meant it. By the end of the first day, we'd fed 83 people. And when one of them hugged me and whispered, "You have kind eyes, Auntie," something inside me healed a little. That became my new Sunday tradition. Every week, I cooked meals with my own 2 hands, the same hands that had once written checks for people who never thanked me. Now they stirred pots of dal and rice for those who truly needed them. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell a soul, because for the first time in my life I wasn't doing it to prove my worth. I was doing it to feel it. But the family didn't take my silence kindly. By mid-month I got a letter, an official-looking envelope with my name printed neatly on it. It was from Rakesh's lawyer. Dear Ms. Sharma, my client, Mr. Rakesh Sharma, informs me that you have wrongfully withheld agreed-upon financial assistance promised toward the education of his daughter, Ms. Tanya Sharma. I almost laughed. Agreed upon? I'd never signed a thing. But they were escalating, and I knew it. So I called Mr. D'Souza. He chuckled softly when I read him the letter. Don't worry, Ms. Sharma. Let them dig their own grave. He helped me file a formal cease and desist, citing financial harassment. That was step 3. Meanwhile, I was changing more than my bank accounts. I changed my locks. I changed my phone number. And, after a lifetime of modest clothes and quiet smiles, I changed myself. One Saturday, I walked into a salon and told the stylist, "Cut it short, something that says I'm not afraid anymore." She smiled. When she spun me toward the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Short hair, brighter eyes, lighter shoulders. That reflection didn't look like an old maid. She looked like someone reborn. Meanwhile, I was changing more than my bank accounts. I changed my locks. I changed my phone number. And, after a lifetime of modest clothes and quiet smiles, I changed myself. One Saturday, I walked into a salon and told the stylist, "Cut it short, something that says I'm not afraid anymore." She smiled. When she spun me toward the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Short hair, brighter eyes, lighter shoulders. That reflection didn't look like an old maid. She looked like someone reborn. A week later, I ran into my neighbor, Mrs. Fernandez, at the market. "We haven't seen your family visit lately," she said gently. "Are they all right?" I smiled. "They're fine. I'm just renovating my priorities." She laughed, then said something that stuck with me. "Sometimes, dear, Silence is the loudest boundary. She was right. And yet, deep down, I knew the silence wouldn't last. Because narcissists don't handle rejection well. They would retaliate. They would lie. They would play the victim. I could feel it coming, like a storm brewing on the horizon. But this time, I was ready. I had documentation. I had allies. And most importantly, I had myself. That Sunday evening, as I packed the leftover containers from the community kitchen, Sister Louise smiled at me. "You've got quite the gift, you know," she said. "You feed people like it's a prayer." I smiled back, holding the warm steel pot in my hands. "Maybe it is," I said quietly. "Maybe it's the only kind that gets answered." Because what my family didn't know, not yet, was that every meal I cooked, every plate I served, every face I helped feed, was part of something much bigger. My secret wasn't just kindness. It was a legacy. I'd started filing the paperwork to convert my old savings account, the one they used to drain, into a registered non-profit foundation. Named in honor of my late mother, the Meera Sharma Sunday Kitchen. Every Sunday I spent there was another step toward independence, another brick in a wall they'd never climb over again. By the time they found out, it would be too late. But before that happened, they'd make one last attempt. One final act of cruelty that would drag us both into a courtroom. And that's where I'd finally get my voice back. I always thought the word court belonged to other people. People with fancy problems and louder voices. But on that humid Tuesday morning, there I was, sitting in the echoing hallway of the district civil court, clutching a folder so full of receipts it could tell my life story. Across the hall, my brother Rakesh stood surrounded by his lawyer, his wife, and Tanya, all dressed like they were attending a family wedding rather than a hearing. Tanya's nails gleamed crimson. Her eyes avoided mine. I looked down at my own hands. Plain nails, ink stains on my fingers from writing out statements. Hands that had built everything they'd taken for granted. It started with a summons. Apparently, I was being accused of mental instability, leading to breach of family trust and financial promise. Translation? They wanted control over my finances by proving I was unfit to handle them. I laughed when I read the claim. Then I cried. Then I called Mr. D'Souza. He didn't even sound surprised. "Classic escalation," he said calmly. "When manipulation fails, they'll try to discredit you." He assured me it wouldn't stand, but still, sitting there, hearing my name read in court as the respondent, it burned. Scene 1, the first hearing. The judge, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a tired tone, asked each side to present their case. Rakesh's lawyer went first. "Your Honor, my client's sister has shown signs of paranoia and erratic behavior. She has abruptly withdrawn financial support promised to family members, cut off communication, and may be under undue influence or delusion. We simply request protective oversight of her assets." Protective oversight. The words slithered like snakes across the courtroom floor. Then he gestured dramatically to Tanya. "Ms. Sharma, would you tell the court what happened?" Tanya's voice trembled, practiced. "She used to love us. Then she just changed. She accused us of stealing, said we were using her. She stopped helping me with school. I don't even understand why." Her eyes glistened on cue. Perfect performance. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her, until she added, "She needs help. We're just trying to get her the care she needs." That word again. Help. Always their excuse for control. When it was my turn, I stood. My knees wobbled, but my voice didn't. "Your Honor," I began, "for 22 years I supported this family financially, voluntarily. No contracts, no promises, just kindness. But kindness should not be a lifetime sentence." I opened my folder, pages of bank statements, transfer receipts, loan cosigns, all highlighted and dated. I've documented every dollar, over 50,000 of them. If helping family makes me unstable, then I suppose stability is overrated. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have supporting witnesses? I do, Your Honor. 3. And I called them, one by one. Scene 2. The witnesses. Witness 1. Mrs. Patel, bank manager. She confirmed my request to separate accounts and described my composure. Ms. Sharma was organized and lucid. She expressed concern about repeated withdrawals made by her relatives using joint access. The courtroom murmured. Witness 2, Dr. Maid, psychiatrist. Calm and firm. Ms. Sharma shows no signs of psychosis or cognitive decline. She demonstrates insight and consistent judgment. Her behavior reflects a trauma response to long-term financial coercion. That phrase landed like thunder. Witness 3, Sister Louise. The judge leaned forward as the elderly nun described my volunteer work. She's one of the most reliable women I've ever met. Every Sunday she's there by 7 a.m. sharp. She feeds people who have nothing. That's not instability. That's integrity. By the end of her testimony, Tanya looked down. Rakesh's jaw was clenched so tightly I thought he might crack a tooth. But they weren't done yet. Rakesh's lawyer brought up their own witnesses. Witness 1, a family friend, claimed I'd always been emotional. Witness 2, Tanya, tearfully insisted I'd once thrown money at her. It was $200 I'd dropped on the counter after she took my car. Witness 3, my sister-in-law, said I'd isolated myself and needed guidance. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so cruel. Scene 3, the cross-examination. Mr. D'Souza rose slowly, adjusting his glasses like a man about to carve truth from lies. He started with Tanya. Ms. Sharma, you claim your aunt promised tuition payments. Do you have that promise in writing? No, but verbal? Text messages? Emails? No, but she always... So no written or verbal agreement, yet you used her car without permission. She never said I couldn't. Did she ever say you could? Silence. Then he turned to Rakesh. Mr. Sharma, do you recall a transfer of $8,000 made to your account in 2012? It was a gift. And the $6,450 for your mother's surgery? That was family duty. And the $2,800 for home repairs? We were in need. I see, D'Souza said, pacing slowly. So every time your sister gave, it was family. But the one time she stopped, she's unstable? The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Even the judge smirked. Scene 4, the revelation. When it was my turn to testify again, I pulled out one final envelope. It contained registration documents, stamped and notarized. Your Honor, I recently founded a non-profit named the Meera Sharma Sunday Kitchen Foundation. Its funding originates from my personal savings, not family accounts. This is where my money goes now, to feed the hungry, not the entitled. Rakesh's lawyer stammered. Objection, irrelevant. Overruled, said the judge coolly. Very relevant. I looked straight at my brother. You said I was wasting my life, that I was an old maid with nothing. But every Sunday, I build something that outlives all of us. And then, for the first time, I saw it. Fear. Real, raw fear in his eyes. Because he realized he'd lost control. Scene 5. Judgment. After 3 long hearings, the judge ruled in my favor. The court finds no evidence of mental instability or mismanagement of assets. Furthermore, the respondent's financial independence and charitable activity are commendable. The petition is dismissed. Then she looked directly at Rakesh. And Mr. Sharma, if you continue to harass your sister, she may file for a restraining order, and she'll win. The gavel fell. That sound, sharp, final, felt like freedom striking wood. Outside the courthouse, reporters hovered. Tanya rushed past me, crying into her phone. Rakesh shouted something about family disgrace. I didn't reply. Instead, I turned to Mr. D'Souza. So, what now? He smiled. Now, Ms. Sharma, you live your life. That night, I cooked alone. Not for 80 strangers this time, but for myself. A simple meal, dal, rice, and a small dessert I hadn't made in years. Gajar halwa, my mother's favorite. As I stirred the pot, I realized something profound. Justice didn't come in the form of revenge. It came as peace. And I'd finally bought it. Not with dollars, but with boundaries. It's been 1 year since that courtroom day. Sometimes when I water my balcony plants in the quiet of Sunday mornings, I think about how much noise used to fill my life. The calls, the demands, the guilt. Now it's just the sound of birds and boiling tea. And peace. Scene 1. The new life. The Sunday kitchen has grown. What started as me and Sister Louise serving meals out of a small rented space has now become a registered foundation feeding nearly 400 people every week. I've hired 2 part-time cooks and a young woman named Maya, who reminds me so much of the niece I wished I had, kind, grateful, and full of purpose. She once said to me, "Auntie, you could have given up on people, but you didn't." I smiled at that, because the truth is, I did give up on some people, and that's exactly how I found the right ones. Scene 2. Karma's return. As for Rakesh and his family, karma has its own perfect rhythm. 6 months after the court case, Tanya's college expelled her for plagiarism. The prestige degree she'd mocked me for not having ended before it even began. Rakesh's business, the one he'd started using family funds, was audited. Turns out his bookkeeping wasn't as clean as mine ever was. They both called, of course, first polite, then angry, then pleading. I didn't block their numbers. I just let them ring. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words ever could. Scene 3. The grave. Last month I visited my mother's grave, the woman whose name I gave to my foundation. I brought her marigolds, her favorite flowers, and sat beside her for a long time. "I did it, Ma," I whispered. "I finally stopped trying to earn love with money." For a moment I thought I felt a breeze, warm and soft, brush across my face. And I knew somehow she heard me. Scene 4. Reflection. When I look back now, I realize something simple yet profound. Love without respect is just manipulation dressed up as family duty. I used to think self-worth came from how much I gave. Now I know it comes from what I refuse to give away anymore. My peace. People call me a lot of things: practical, stubborn, distant. But I've reclaimed one title they once used as an insult. Yes, I'm the old maid. The one who never married, never gave birth, never settled. But you know what else I am? I'm the woman who built something sacred out of betrayal, who learned that boundaries are the highest form of love, and who discovered that sometimes solitude is just another word for freedom. Scene 5. The final message. Now every Sunday, when I unlock the door to the community kitchen, sunlight pours through the windows like gold. The tables are full, the laughter is loud, and the air smells of spice, hope, and redemption. And I smile, because every meal I serve is a quiet reminder. I may have been their ATM with feelings, but now I'm my own source of abundance. My name is Anjali Sharma. I'm 58 years old, and I've finally learned that self-worth cannot be purchased, only protected. So tell me, if someone kept taking from you in the name of love, how long would it take before you finally said no? Fade out. Closing screen. Based on true stories of financial abuse and rediscovered freedom. Outro voiceover. If this story moved you, share it. Somewhere, someone is still learning how to say no.